Dan van Holst Pellekaan, the Deputy Premier and member for Stuart. Thanks for joining us on the eve of the election.
Yeah, my pleasure, Ricky. Thank you. Always happy to come on Flow.
Okay, look, something that was clearly within your ministerial portfolios when it comes to energy is power prices. We see Tom Koutsantonis tweeting earlier today the average of the last 4 years of power prices under Labor, he says, compared to the last 4 years of the Marshall government, with Escosa shows the annual average is better with Labor than it was with the Liberal Party. Is that a bit of spin on the figures, or is that accurate?
No, look, nobody should be listening to Tom Koutsantonis when it comes to energy policy. He's the one that oversaw the increase in prices. Under Labor, in their last 2 years of office, power prices went up for the average household in South Australia by $477. We have actually brought it back down by $421 over the last 4 years. So we have corrected the terrible situation that Labor left for South Australians. And importantly, in addition to reducing power prices as independently assessed by Escosa, we've not had one blackout in South Australia because of insufficient supply or grid instability since we came to government, and everybody will remember the blackout after blackout after blackout that we had under Labor. So we've reduced the prices, we've reduced the blackouts, and we have also continued the increase in renewable energy generation as well. So I'll stake my record next to Tom Koutsantonis when it comes to energy any day of the week.
Well, this signature policy of the Labor Party has been their plan for this hydrogen power plant. What's the Liberal Party's position on hydrogen power for South Australia going forward and the Labor Party's policy?
Well, Ricky, we are and have been for 4 years working very hard on developing a hydrogen production and export industry. And we're attracting $10 to $15 billion worth of overseas and domestic company investment in these projects. We're doing that at Port Bonython near Whyalla, and we're doing that at Port Pirie with Trafigura and Nearstar. We're facilitating those projects, we're offering land for those projects, and we are doing what's necessary to get industry to come and invest its money and create jobs and create a new industry here. And that's in stark comparison to Labor, which actually wants to spend $1.2 billion as independently costed of taxpayers' money on a hydrogen power generator, something that's never been done in the world before, something that is incredibly expensive, and something that by the opposition leader's own admission is likely to push up the cost of electricity. We are very comfortable that we're dropping the price, dropping the blackouts, and increasing the renewable energy penetration, and we will create a new green energy production and export industry through hydrogen. But we are not going to waste taxpayers' money on another white elephant.
Now, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I think you might have described Labor's hydrogen plan as BS in a press release. But when it comes to costings, we've been chasing these from the Labor Party. We're close to the election on Thursday and still haven't cited them. That figure you've just given of the $1 billion, what is the government's concern about Labor's costings compared to yours in spending this election?
Well, Labor says it wants to spend about $600 million of taxpayers' money on this white elephant. Independent experts and publicly available information from the CSIRO and the United States Department for Energy, other respected commentators like the Grattan Institute and others around Australia have all said that this will be a well over $1 billion of taxpayers' money that they want to spend on it. So given that we have that disagreement, I've just said to Labor, show us your costings, give us the detailed costings, give us your detailed modelling. What have you got to hide? Why won't you just share that information? And Ricky, they've not factored in grid connection. So they want to have a new taxpayer-owned, taxpayer-funded, government-operated power generator, but they haven't factored in what it takes to connect it to the grid. But that, we know, from electorate will be another $150 million. They haven't done anything for land acquisition. In fact, they can't even tell us where it would be other than somewhere near Whyalla. There are just so many missing pieces in this. Taxpayers, South Australians, families, households cannot afford to go back to the bad old days under Labor with escalating power prices, blackout after blackout, and just hollow promises, wasting taxpayers' money. The last election they went to, they said that they were going to invest $600 million in dirty diesel generators. They are not to be trusted when it comes to energy.
Well, the national picture on unemployment is generally better than it was, say, before the pandemic, but nonetheless, Labor's trying to say South Australia has the highest unemployment on today's data in the nation. What does that say about the government's record on creating jobs?
Look, our record on creating jobs has been very positive. The unemployment numbers do jump around. The result is not as good as we would have liked it to be this time, but the last set of figures that was released, we had the lowest unemployment in South Australia's history. So even if we just look at the average between last time and this time, we're in very good shape. What we also know is that there are more South Australians employed, more South Australians in work in our state than ever before. The numbers jump around, but let's just look at the number of people with jobs in our state. It continues to grow, and it continues to grow because of the responsible way that our government partners with industry. The government doesn't make jobs apart from the public sector jobs where we employ directly. The government supports industry to make jobs, from the smallest corner, deli, through to the largest employers in the state, like GFG at Whyalla and Nearstar at Port Pirie. It's those companies, those organisations that make the jobs, and it is the government partnering with them in a really, really responsible way that creates employment, and that's exactly what we're doing.
Now, you're clearly travelling within the electorate at the moment. Is there any unfinished business for you when it comes to roads and improving roads across the electorate of Stuart?
Well, look, yes and no. When you say is there unfinished business, I'm incredibly proud of the money that we've spent, and in many cases in partnership with the federal government, to upgrade roads. We've seen the Air Highway, the Barrier Highway, the Augusta Highway, the road to Port Wakefield, the Horrocks Highway, on and on and on, roads being upgraded. People in South Australia are so incredibly grateful for what we're doing there. But of course, there's always another road that can be pointed at. You haven't fixed that one yet. Yes, you fixed those 10, but there's another one I want you to fix. Well, look, that's the reality of it. We're getting on and doing it, and that's why we need to continue with another 4 years in government, so that people can benefit from all the roads that we've already fixed or in the middle of fixing, and we can continue to move on to the others that we haven't got to yet, because the Labor Party's not going to do that.
Well, if beyond your control perhaps, if you win the seat of Stuart but you find yourself in opposition, it's customary that the leader would step down. Would you have your hand up to lead the Liberal Party if it was open?
Oh, look, Ricky, I've got one focus locally, and that is to be re-elected. That is a super tough job with the boundary changes and two sitting MPs going against each other. And I've got one focus statewide, and that is to support the return of our really good Liberal government. Beyond that, they're all things for consideration after the election. We're just working for the best outcome of all South Australians, and that is for our government to be returned so that we can continue doing the great work that we're doing, and particularly, Ricky, in country and outback South Australia, sealing the Strzelecki track, upgrading hospitals, working on mental health and disability support, upgrading schools, all of these things that we're doing in the country areas, which we know the Labor Party would not do, need to be continued.
Well, Dan van Holst Pellekaan, it's been a pleasure chatting with you leading up to the election. We might well take that question up post-election, regardless of how it turns out. Thanks again for your time today.
My pleasure, Ricky, and thank you to Flow FM as well. You're a really important source of information and entertainment in country South Australia, and I'm always pleased to come on your station.